What's going on, UCF fans? Welcome to the first true edition of the UCF Knightcast. I'm your host, season ticket holder Phil Nunziata, and we are just under 48 hours away from the kickoff of our 2017 football season against the FIU Panthers at home in Spectrum Stadium. And while I didn't plan to do another episode before this game, a lot of other UCF teams have made some waves in this past week, so I figured I would dedicate an entire episode to them and them only. We're going to have a little bit of football talk that's going to sneak in at the end. But thank you all for listening to the first true edition of UCF Knightcast. Obviously, the last one I did, I named episode 0, Testing the Waters. Wanted some feedback, and I want to start by thanking everyone who did give me feedback. It was mostly all positive. There was plenty of constructive criticism, which is exactly what I wanted. I got a lot of, things I could do better, things I should add, things I should maybe not do again. And one of the main things was to talk about more than just the football team, which I completely agreed on. And I was pretty lucky that we had a lot of non-football news this week. There was some is football related, but not just the normal, the teams we're going to play and things like that. So this is actually going to be a very soccer-heavy edition of the Knightcast. So we're going to start with the biggest news that did happen over the weekend, and that is our women's soccer team defeating number 4 ranked UNC University. So we're going to start with the biggest headline of the weekend, which was UCF's women's soccer team defeating the number 4 ranked UNC Tar Heels, a final score of 2-1 that went into a dramatic double overtime fashion. The goal in regulation by Dana Orshman, that was assisted by Zandy Soar, led the team into overtime, and then the golden goal was scored by Christine Creighton. Always big news to beat a ranked opponent. It was the second-ranked opponent that Knights have faced in their first 3 games of the year, dropping the first one and then coming back to beat another ranked team. So very tough start to the schedule. It was good to get that first win there. Definitely propels them into a good start to the year. The team looks very good, even in the game that they lost. It was only by 1 goal, and things are looking up for the Lady Knights. So there might be some things to cheer about this fall that don't just involve our normal football team. The men's soccer team, however, off to a little bit rough of a start, starting their campaign 0-2, but get their home opener later this week. So hopefully they can get their first win of the year at home when they return there later this week. Our next piece of news falls under the Knights in the Pros category. The former UCF star striker currently plays for Orlando City of the MLS on their second-tier squad in the USL, which is essentially, for those that don't know the way soccer works, the second-tier division, almost a Division II, if you will, while still professional league of the USL. He's gotten some time with the main squad sporadically throughout the season and last, but he's really coming to his own as one of the star players on their second-tier team, Orlando City B squad, and was named the Week 22 USL Player of the Week, scoring 3 goals in 2 games, including 2 against Ottawa Fury FC. And this puts OCB well in a playoff position, as they've been riding an 11-game unbeaten streak. Hadji Barry, of course, having a lot to do with that, because anyone who watched him play back in the day knows that Hadji Barry scores when he wants. Just to give you an idea of how good of a form he's really been playing in, he's played 13 games total for OCB, starting 12 of them, and has 8 goals. So that's pretty close to a goal a game, which is all you can ask for with a star striker. He's been on the team of the week many times this year, and for the first time he got player of the week, so that's good. And for people that are also, like myself, big Orlando City supporters, he is definitely somebody we want to see play with the main squad sooner than later. So congratulations there to Hadji Barry. Congratulations to the women's UCF team, and a lot of good soccer news coming out of the weekend from Orlando all around. And one more quick note on the UCF women's soccer team. After that win versus UNC, they have now checked in at number 24 in the United Soccer Coaches Poll, making it the first time that our Lady Knights have cracked into the top 25. I do have a little bit of football news here to throw in. This is mostly revolving around recruiting, which is not something I've had a whole lot of experience with, but I feel like it's a big part of, the system and college football as a whole, so it's good to talk about those things. We've had 2 big headlines come out of the woodwork this past week. The first one being a former Oregon defensive lineman and a former 5-star recruit, and I'm sorry, I'm probably going to butcher this name, but it's Canton Kamalutli is how I'm going to say it, and I know I'm probably wrong, but hopefully in the future we'll hear his name said a lot and I'll get it right. But he's a former 5-star recruit that originally committed to Oregon, hasn't really got on the field a whole lot, has transferred to UCF. He will sit out the entire 2017 season, but that's a big talent boost that the Knights will be able to utilize next year. The next little piece of news we have on the recruiting trail is another transfer, this one from UNC, University of North Carolina, cornerback Mike Hughes, whose name is a lot easier to say. Transfers from the Tar Heels after playing 1 year there, did not play a whole lot, was injured at some point, only registered 14 tackles in his sophomore year there. His freshman year, he was actually a JUCO transfer alone from Garden City Community College, actually won the JUCO National Championship at Garden City Community College. He is eligible to play right away. I don't know if we'll see him as soon as Thursday necessarily, but he is eligible to play. He has 2 years left, this year and next year, of eligibility. So it'll be interesting to see if either of those guys, obviously Mike Hughes has a chance to impact a lot sooner than Canton, but it's nice to see the recruiting trip is not done after having, the number one recruiting class in the American Conference this past year, that recruiting is still hard at work and things are still getting done. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly Mike Hughes makes an impact with the Knights. I don't think he'd play as soon as this week. Maybe he'll get in there towards the end of the game. You never know. I guess it depends on what the score is like. But that's definitely someone to keep an eye out on, who was a former 3-star, in case you're wondering, a former 3-star high school athlete before committing to the Tar Heels. So as we get to the end of this episode, we're going to end it a lot like we did last time. We're going to do the latest information on the whole saga between former UCF quarterback Blake Bortles and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with me, like last time, is Jags fan Kramer. Kramer, thanks for being back here.
Not a problem.
We said we were going to revisit this in a few weeks, but then, of course, something happened right away that was newsworthy. So I figured we might as well talk about it to close the show. So what ended up happening in the last preseason game is Henne got the start, Chad Henne got the start, and Blake Bortles was essentially a quarterback controversy and competition in every sense of the word. And while neither quarterback set the world on fire, it was announced yesterday that Blake Bortles will in fact be the starting quarterback for Week 1. Initially, what was your thoughts?
My first thought was, now I feel like we have a chance to win. Most people probably don't think that way. My viewpoint is that with Chad Henne starting, we're not winning anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Blake Bortles at least gives us a chance to start. He's going to go out there. He's either Jekyll or Hyde. He's going to do really good and throw a lot of touchdowns, or he's going to be really bad and throw a bunch of picks.
Or both.
Probably both, yeah. It's so hard to say, because we've seen the good side of Blake, and recently we've seen the bad side of Blake. So with Blake Bortles winning the starting job, I have a little bit of hope, thinking that we could possibly be decent this year. It's going to be tough against the Houston defense, but they have their own quarterback issues, and Tom Savage is their starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have a really good chance to win Week 1 in Houston, or
if the game's played in Houston. We'll get to that. We'll touch on that.
Yeah. So as far as Blake Bortles goes, I'm happy for him. Honestly, I think this was a wake-up call for him, really, that, like, hey, you need to perform, otherwise you're not going to start. Because essentially this job has been his since about Week 4 of his rookie season, and
right.
Without any real, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like pushback, really.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, he won said starting job from Chad Henne. So Chad Henne, again, wasn't exactly setting the world on fire when Blake got there.
Mm-hmm.
I think you nailed it, really. It was more of a scare tactic, really.
Yeah.
And he played well. He played well enough, I should say, in this preseason game.
Yeah.
So I agree with you that Blake definitely gives you a better chance to win, and I'm glad he's getting this opportunity. But I think it goes without saying that this is in every sense of the word, a make-or-break year for Blake Bortles.
Yeah, because if Chad Henne is playing, he's basically just another captain check down where he'll just go, throw the ball no more than 5 yards and that's it. Now Blake, he's a little more wild with the ball. He can be very reckless at times. His mechanics have been way off. So if he has the ability to fix whatever his issue has been, he can be what he was 2 years ago when he threw for over 4,000 yards and 35 touchdowns. So,
which is interesting, of course, because when you go back to that year with a performance like that, it only resulted in them winning 5 games. So I feel like back then he was ready to emerge, but the team around him wasn't.
Yeah.
Right now it's almost the opposite. The team on paper looks pretty good, well-rounded, and he seems to be the weak point. At least that seemed like the case last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year was just a total dumpster fire on many levels. It was weird. His first year there, the defense was good, but he was a rookie. And then there's the second year he was there. He was really good, but the defense was bad. And last year was just a train wreck from all sides of the team. And I don't know what happened. I really felt good going into last year, and it just never worked out, really. He had a good week 1 game against the Packers, and then after that, we went and played San Diego, and it just the season just completely fell apart within the second game of the season, and he never really recovered from that. And it kind of showed up a little bit into training camp this year because he's, I try not to go crazy over what's said in practice. He's thrown 5 picks in the first practice and all that.
Right.
You try to overlook it because it's just
practice.
It's just practice we're talking about
To
here.
quote Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
So my question for you then is, because we've seen a year where Blake had the stats and not the wins.
Yeah.
And it's very apparent that if you don't win, nobody cares about your stats.
Yeah.
So what that means to me is, I'm not worried about his stats. What's the magical number of wins you think Blake needs to bring this team to earn a new contract?
Well, here's the thing. We already picked up his 5th-year option.
Right.
But I think it needs to be a minimum of 7 wins.
That was the number I was thinking too.
It has to be a minimum of 7 wins. If we can win 8 games and go 500, great. We haven't seen that since 2010 in Jacksonville. But 7 wins, I think this team is talented enough. He has the talent to win at least 7 games, and in an NFL sense, 7 wins is not a lot.
Right.
It's doable. If you want to be if you're a good quarterback, 7 wins is nothing.
Right.
A good quarterback should be able to win at least half the games he plays. So
and being in a division that games are there to be won.
Yeah. So I think 7 is a fair number. So anything more than that, great. And I'd be happy to have him back next year.
Yeah, I'd agree. I honestly think 7 is that magic number because even 6, I don't think gets it done. If they go 6-10, there's still enough negativity there.
Yeah.
7, and like you said, upwards would be better, of course. But I think we're onto something here where 7 wins is the magic number for Blake to really continue, his career with the Jags. And we didn't touch on this last time just because he hadn't really played much. I believe he played a little in this last preseason game. But Blake Bortles is not the only UCF Knight on the Jacksonville Jaguars now. He also has his former teammate from when he was there, cornerback A.J. Bouye, who, of course, used to play for the Texans, oddly enough, and signed as a free agent. He hasn't played a whole lot, so I know you won't have much to say.
Yeah.
But overall, what do you think about adding him to your roster this year?
It bolsters our secondary. Last year we drafted Jalen Ramsey from Florida State. This year we signed A.J. Bouye from Houston. He's a former UCF corner. I like the move. I think we have one of the top young secondaries in the NFL now. We added Barry Church from Dallas. We got Deshaun Gibson, who's okay. But overall, I think our secondary is a really strong point of this team, thanks in a lot to us signing A.J. Bouye. I think he could be, a really good corner, shut down, the other team's number 2 corner, Jalen Ramsey will be going after the number 1 receiver. So
I mean, it's possible even for the start of it anyway. AJ could even be the guy guarding the number 1.
He's good enough to be a number 1 corner.
Right. I mean, and because this is a guy who he came out. I don't remember the round exactly, but this is a mid to late round draft selection.
He won undrafted, I think.
Was he also undrafted?
Yeah, I think AJ Boye was undrafted and got signed by Houston.
Well, I'm gonna double check right now. You're probably right. But this is a guy who's worked his way up to the money that he has gotten. And which is the point I was trying to make, basically, that he was undrafted. Good call. Yeah, this is a guy that's, when you guys signed him now, he's making big corner money. Yeah. Not maybe the top players, but, very close to it. Yeah. So, these two, UCF Knights will take the field in Houston, hopefully, due to, the natural disasters that are happening in Houston. We'll take a quick minute. Thoughts and prayers to all the people down there in Texas that are dealing with this. As native Floridians, we know what it's like to deal with natural disasters and hurricanes. And we hope that everyone that can be safe will be safe.
Yeah.
So if that game is played in Houston, that's a whole other conversation, really.
Yeah.
But, overall, I think with Blake Bortles, to tie this back in, this is the last year, and you really know what you have when you push him against the wall like that.
Yeah.
So I've seen Blake I've seen him play bad halves. I've seen him play bad games and bounce back in his college years.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that's enough there for that. And for anyone that enjoys hearing more Jacksonville Jaguar talk, Kramer actually has his own podcast, the Jags Cast. If you go on my Spreaker page, you go to the followers or the people I'm following, you can find his page to listen to more Jacksonville Jaguar stuff. So Kramer, thanks for coming on. Again, I'm sure we're going to have more to talk about after week 1. So we'll do another Blake Bortles, AJ Boye update.
Absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure I'm dragging you to the game on Thursday, right? That's the plan?
Yeah, if I don't have to work, which I shouldn't have to, I'll go to the game with you.
Cool. So I usually get Kramer out to about 1 game a year. So we're going to be out there. Hope everyone else goes out there too. Remember, wear white for the first frost. And this has been the first true episode of the Knightcast. I'm Phil. He's Kramer. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the game and go Knights.
See you.